the Department of Natural Resource Director. Up until he just retired, I brought Frank back out of retirement. He's working with my office out of Washington. He's our statewide representative. And also, I'm now co-chairman of the Sportsmen's Caucus, which is the Congressional Sportsmen's Caucus. And what we do is any type of bills that have to do with any type of sportsman comes through us. We work it. So Frank's liaison with all of you and any clubs that we have, any groups that are organized, any groups that want to be involved in any way, shape, or form, or if you have some concerns, then Frank will get right to us and he'll be here at your meetings or anything you need. When I was governor, you know, we went through some things here, and Frank was my DNR director. We started the Eddie Eagle program for the children. And we were one of the first states, I think, in the nation to do that. And we thought it was a good program. And basically, you know, like I said, oh my goodness, you can't go and teach about gun etiquette in school. And with that being said, we said it would be volunteer, it would be taught by a professional, a licensed professional. It would be all volunteer. And the parents had to sign that they wanted their children. It was an extremely successful program. And we were teaching children that never had the opportunity to learn proper etiquette, proper safety about guns. So that was started. We had the castle law. You remember the castle law? When I was governor, they came to me and they said, "You got to pass this law, governor." I said, "Well, sure." I said, "What is it?" They explained it to me. The castle. Your home is your castle. And if you break into your home, someone breaks in, you have the right to use deadly force to protect your family. I said, "I don't know if we need a law." I said, "That's how we do it anyway." They didn't have to pass a law for that one, but we did. And then under Frank was working with me, we put more shooting ranges around West Virginia. And I can tell you what, Canaan is one of our, remember Canaan lately? Canaan State Park, shooting range up there. One of the nicest ranges, and you'd be surprised people from all over the country that come in and use these ranges. It's a family sport. They want to learn, and they want their children to know how to do it. But I go to Washington, and I just assume that basically most people were raised like I was, come from a gun culture area. And I've always told them, you know, I said, you know, I come from West Virginia, and I said, you know, in West Virginia, a law-abiding gun owner doesn't sell your gun to a stranger. We don't sell it to someone who's been a criminal. We don't sell it to someone who we believe is not mentally capable of having a gun. And we won't even give it to a family member who's not responsible. It's pretty much how you're taught. It's just common sense, you would think. With that being said, we have the horrible shooting at Newtown. There were 20 little children that were slaughtered. And then you had 6 adults that were trying to save the children that were slaughtered. And with that, it changes you, because then you have every emotions and everybody getting involved, and then everybody basically comes down and comes to Washington, different groups. So I'm standing on the floor of the Senate one day, and I hear some of my fellow colleagues talking about they wanted to ban certain guns, they wanted to stop certain bullets and certain things, and everything, all of a sudden, you know, this has got everybody an emotional high. So I talked to one of my colleagues, a senator, who was pushing a bill that would ban certain assault weapons. So I took a picture of my gun. I have a Howler 400 deer hunting with. And I showed her my gun, and she said, that's a deer, that's a rifle. That's a deer rifle. Showed her the same picture, another picture with a different stock on it. Well, that's an assault rifle. And I says, it's the same rifle. It looks different. It doesn't shoot any different. It doesn't perform any different. They just don't know. Then I talked to another gentleman, another friend of mine. He said, "Joe," he says, "I grew up in an area where I didn't know anybody in my neighborhood, anybody in the town I grew up in that owned a gun." And I said, "I grew up in an area, I didn't know anybody that didn't have a gun." But we're different. It's a different country. I said, "Let me just make it very clear for you. This is what we're dealing with. You didn't come from an area where you had a gun culture. So you assume everyone's like you. And you assume anybody that owns a gun, just because I own a gun, you think I'm a criminal. I'm going to do something wrong. You think I'm going to break the law, and I'm not a law-abiding citizen. So immediately you start passing laws to prevent me from being a criminal." I said, "Then let me ask you something. Why did you buy that nice car you have out in the parking lot? I just saw a beautiful car. I looked on the street on it, and it says 140. Speed limit's only 70, 65, 70. And I looked at all this fancy stuff you have. Why Why did you buy it? Because you could. You're a law-abiding citizen. You can buy it. It's a product. You can buy what you want. And you know something? You can go anywhere in the country and buy that, and no one will stop you from buying it. Why can't I be treated the same way? What did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I like guns. I shoot guns. I like to collect some guns. I've not broken any laws. And I buy it because I'm able to buy a product like that in this beautiful country. I have the ability and the rights to do that. So we go through that, and he says, well, if you know so much about guns, why don't you help us with the bill? I said, the only thing I see wrong, I said, first of all, as an individual, you've got to assume that I'm going to do the right thing. You can't put background checks on everything because you assume I'm going to do something wrong. I said, so the way the bill came down, myself and Pat Toomey, and it was pretty simple. It only said if you go to a commercial gun show or if you go on the internet. And we already do it. In part, those were two loopholes that were still left from when they passed the Brady law on us. So what we did with those is we just tightened those up. It says basically, anybody at a gun show has to have a background check. But normally, you're not going to know that person. It's a commercial transaction. If you're on the internet, it has nothing to do. You can be on your church bulletin board and put a sign up. You can sell a gun to somebody. You can go, no interaction whatsoever. You can give it to a friend, loan it to a friend, all this. In that piece of legislation that we passed, let me tell you what we did. We were able to get things done that you would never have a liberal group of people that are against the gun and have no gun culture law would ever vote for them. Never get passed. But they took away from us. This piece of bill that we put, that we had just a simple background check on only commercial transactions at gun shows and on the internet. Now the way the law is today, if you go to a gun show and you're a licensed dealer, an FFL dealer, you have to do a background check. But a person next door, right beside you on another table, doesn't. If you're on the internet, if you buy on the internet from out of state, you buy a gun on the internet, it has to come into a dealer by law, and you have to have a background check to go pick it up. If you have a transaction in your own state, nothing. That's all we did, was just tighten to make it uniform. And let me tell you the things we were able to restore, the gun rights. We were able to put back allowing interstate handgun sales from licensed dealers. Can't do that now. We allowed active military to buy firearms in their home states and the state in which they are stationed. Can't do that now. Makes no sense. We're allowing dealer-to-dealer sales at gun shows taking place in a state in which they are not a resident. These are dealers. Can't do that now. This bill would give every right. All of our Brady bills, everything we lost in the Brady bill, we got back with this bill. And it was just common sense, and it seemed like that for some reason it just got such a hype. And when I started talking to people that are responsible, most have done, when they read the bill, and I brought copies of the bill for you, but if you haven't seen it, you want copies, believe me, you can give them to people, or you can read them yourself. I asked them, I said, once you read the bill, and they said, well, Joe, no, we like everything in the bill. And I said, why would you be against it? We don't trust government. It really came down, they just didn't trust the government of doing the right thing and stopping there. But it's a constitutional, it can't do by executive order, it has to go through the process of law. And I just think that we have a responsibility as legitimate law-abiding gun owners to protect what we do by making some common sense decisions also. The bill that you just saw that the legislature passed, concealed carry, and that's a bill that I was opposed to because it made no sense at all. If you talk to any law enforcement officer in my county, what they go through now, and now anybody they would stop for any reason whatsoever, they've got to assume that person is carried. We had no one complaining. If you ever conceal, how many of y'all have concealed carries here? You went through a process, right? You do it. And I don't think anybody was denied, probably, unless they were rightfully, they couldn't pass the check there and didn't go through the safety program, But we have a concealed carry. We have reciprocity. We have reciprocity where you can go state by state, and I think people in West Virginia, I think, ought to be able to have reciprocity in those states that have a handgun concealed carry permit law and be able to take it. Take your gun with you. You shouldn't be prohibited from doing that. But this piece of legislation that came down, it came basically, I don't know where it came from. It wasn't a groundswell of constituents. It wasn't a groundswell of constituents that I can't get a street, I'd have take law away. It's people that believe strictly in the Constitution as the Constitution is interpreted by different people, but basically as the Constitution. And I said this, if you're adamant about that, and you feel strongly one way or the other, and you live in whatever state, the beautiful state of West Virginia, put it on the ballot. Let the people vote. See what the people want. See if it's something that people, that everybody would agree to. That's good for our society or good for our state. I'm not opposed to that, but I'm opposed to the way these things happen, the way they come down. I've been involved in it long enough to understand. Sometimes there can be pressure put upon, and some people concerned about the political well-being, if you will. Let me tell you, in the political arena that we live in, the worst thing that can happen to me is I get voted out. That's not that bad. If I think I'm doing the right thing and I can defend it, there's a lot of things. I don't play the Democrat-Republican card. I'm not one that you've seen play that card. I play basically the American card and the West Virginia card. I'm going to do what's great for my country and what I think is great for my state. And with my party and whoever's party, I think it's, you can have a lot of fun with politics. But you better be an American first, you better be a West Virginian too, and do the right thing. A lot of times we have people that basically are kowtowing to the political parties or the whims and wishes of donors and people who put big money into these campaigns. And it just drives it to the point you make no sense whatsoever. There's a lot of things going on in Congress right now, and there's a lot of things going on in the legislatures around the country. But the bottom line is, if we are law-abiding gun owners, we have to have not only common sense, we have to have gun sense. And something, if we have people thinking that we're not in the mainstream and laws that basically are being passed are not what the public would understand would be for practical reasons, for safety reasons. And if you have all of your law enforcement who come out absolutely, unequivocally, every law enforcement agency come out against something, then you ought to take heed on that. These are the people that you're asking stand in front of me when someone wants to shoot me. Anybody in uniform that puts a uniform on is willing to take a bullet for you. My goodness, well, at least listen to them a little bit of what they think and how they keep you safe. And that's what this is all about. So it's common sense, and it's gun sense. And if you're a law-abiding gun owner like I am, and like all of you in this room are, you were taught to do it the right way. You're not going to break the law. But I want to make sure that people that don't understand the gun culture, that what we came through, will treat you as a law-abiding. Just because you have a gun, just because you have a concealed carry permit, you're not doing anything wrong. You're a law-abiding person that has the right to do those things. And the same as they have a right to buy a car or anything else they want to buy. Once we start breaking it down and putting it in perspective, they could understand. They said, I didn't even think of it that way. I said, you don't like a gun, but you might like something else. And you can buy it. I like a gun, why can't I buy it? Once they start thinking that way, there's a problem. You kill more people with a car than you will with a gun. So I could get into where they could understand that. So that's where I'm coming. I wanted to speak to you all about that, because I know there's a lot of controversy and people get all bent out of shape on some of these things. And all we're doing is saying, we've got to have people looking at us. We want to protect our rights that we have, the Second Amendment rights that we have, the right to hunt and fish, the right to enjoy the outdoor, the right to sport shoot, the right to do everything that we want to do, the right to conceal and protect yourself through a proper permitting process with the safety instructions. Those are all good things. But boy, when you start thinking that we can eliminate those and people are going to be behind us, for the first reason to take our rights away from us. And that's what we're fighting all the time. I'm not going to let anybody take my rights away. I'm going to fight for my rights, but I'm going to do it in a responsible way. And if I'm irresponsible, they're going to say, well, you're pretty radical, you're pretty extreme. I'm not sure if that makes sense at all. And I don't want that to be said about any of us. Just because we enjoy our rights to have our guns and use our guns for the lawful privileges that we have. Does anybody have any questions at all or anything? Well, I want to thank you all for wanting to come and speak. We do have copies of the bill. We brought back. If anybody hasn't seen it, please we'll leave them up here. We'll leave them up here for Gary and at least that was the one. This is the bill that Pat Toomey that signed with on it. You can support it for yourself. So you don't have to listen to anybody telling you this or that. Look at it, read it, see what it did, and I think you'll be surprised at it if you haven't seen it. But it's Okay, hey, thank you all, it's time for lunch, thank you, God bless.